Atlas Fallen promises to deliver an intriguing story, engaging in action-packed combat, although while exploring a beautiful albeit broken land. But does it? Let's find out if Atlas Fallen is worth your time and money. This is the video version of a review on our website, links in the description below. Atlas Fallen tells the tale of a land that's been raised by the Sun God in order to more efficiently gather essence, a rich mineral filled with power. Humanity, enslaved by the Sun God, is forced to mine this valuable resource as an offering to the deity. Now humanity struggles with living in these harsh arid lands filled with hulking monsters called wraiths. You get to play an unnamed character. Literally, they're unnamed. The lowest caste of slaves in Atlas Fallen, forced to work in the mines. But it is this slave who somehow finds an ancient power in the form of a powerful gauntlet. The game then follows the unnamed's journey to free the people from the clutches of an evil entity. Sounds interesting, right? Well, sad to say that the story is actually the weakest point of Atlas Fallen. The plot is about as dry as the desert it's on. After finishing the game in roughly 20 hours, it was disappointing to find that we couldn't even remember the characters' names. Sure, the unnamed protagonist is, well, unnamed, but other than them, the only ones that we can remember are Niall, the spirit of the protagonist's gauntlet who is with you for the entire game, and Thelos, the big bad of the story. Everyone else, forgettable and as cookie cutter as they come. For example, you meet Kendra, who is the leader of the Knights and generally come off as your usual leader figure who has a stick up their bum. To contrast her, we have Arif, who is aloof and somewhat more laid back. And that's basically it. You don't get any sprinkles, chocolate chips, or nuts on your cookie. Just plain unflavored dough. We even had to go back and check to make sure if you got the names correct. Arif had the most potential for character development as he went through a shocking revelation later on in the story. But for the most part, it didn't contribute much to the story even after that. Our main characters, the unnamed and Niall, were also just untapped potential. There was just so much they could have done as a duo. They could have given them clashing personalities, or having the same goal but with different methods in mind of reaching that goal, or even giving them a big twist of betrayal of some kind toward the end. But all we got was, yeah, they're basically just the same person.
We won't let it happen again.
No, we will not.
It's dull and uninteresting. Still better than Forspoken though.
I'm seeing freaking dragons.
Well, now that we've got the weakest point of the game out of the way, let's move on to more interesting things, like giving us a like and subscribe, and also the actual gameplay of Atlas Fallen. Fortunately for Atlas Fallen, they deliver on this aspect rather well. And its biggest draw is its unique twist on the usual action combat formula, the momentum mechanic. The game's unique core mechanic, momentum, can be quickly credited for making the combat system feel solid. It's a gauge that slowly builds up as the player maintains the offensive, and drops after a certain time outside of combat or when the player is hit. As a player's momentum builds, their offensive power goes up, which is made apparent by the ever-increasing size and lethality of the weapons they wield. Yes, the weapons physically grow larger in size. On top of that, certain essence stones that the player has equipped will also activate, allowing the character to enjoy its benefits. Essence stones are skills that you can equip and can be found throughout your journey. There's a healthy variety to them, ranging from damage focused skills to momentum gaining skills, and to those focused on healing. You can mix and match these stones to tailor your character to your playstyle. Players can also expend all their momentum to perform special moves called Shatter, which can instantly kill enemies if they're vulnerable. It's not always a good idea to build momentum, however. As the gauge fills, the players will also start to take more damage from enemies. This wonderful system forces players to weigh the advantages and disadvantages of maintaining their momentum. While some may think that keeping a high momentum all the time is better, the possible price to pay for such a mindset is having to do everything all over again. We had a lot of fun with this combat system, but while in theory the momentum core mechanic sounds like a fantastic way to have players make conscious combat choices, in practice the result is different. Considering how they mete out consequences, players are still free to be completely reckless with their gameplay. Oonga boonga, as the kids might call it nowadays. The game just doesn't punish its players enough for doing so, other than the minor slap of the wrist called a game over screen. Once you get a game over, it loads you back to an autosave. The save is usually just a little before your last fight, meaning there's not really a lot at stake in combat. Outside of combat, exploring is sufficiently rewarding. Exploration supplies players with an abundance of resources to consume, equipment to use, essence stones to equip, world building to enjoy, and most importantly, enemies to fight. This, of course, extends to even the commonly tedious chores, side quests. Another of its greater points is the co-op experience. While having a friend along can make almost any game fun, At Last Fallen also gets plus points for making the setup of co-op sessions a smooth experience. The game has properly considered how two players who have progressed to different points would play together, something quite a few games surprisingly ignore. Depending on which player is hosting the game, At Last Fallen will adjust the joining player's stats to a suitable level. So if a player who has completed the game joins the world of a player who is just starting out, then the game will reduce their stats to roughly that of the hosts. The reverse is the same, with a low-level player enjoying a mass boost to his stats when he joins a world close to or at the end of the game. There are some discrepancies in the equipment available to each player, but only about 30% of a player's effectiveness is reliant on equipment. At the very least, a friend playing on the normal difficulty would have no issues coming to another friend's game at the highest difficulty. While the game lore says that the land is arid and barren, it's not as devoid of color as you might think. The environments of At Last Fallen are quite beautiful. It's genuinely nice to go sand surfing around just because of how visually appealing the environments are. The unique land formations visible from a distance, and the patches of verdant trees in contrast to the vast deserts are all great sights to behold. And you definitely see a bit of the world building as you explore all the intriguing ruins and architecture buried under the sand. However, the same can't be said for the characters. They look okay from afar, but if you look closely at their faces, yeah, maybe needs a little bit of work. That's not all. There are some strange visual bugs that we found throughout the game. They're not game-breaking, and they're kind of funny to look at. So we'll just say it's a feature, guys. Wink wink. The music is present. There wasn't ever a time when it was impactful or emotional. It's just there. Doesn't necessarily harm the experience, but it also doesn't contribute much. On the other hand, it's a bit regrettable that some sound effects were a little cartoony and generic. Despite all of the game's faults, At Last Fallen is still, at the end of the day, a very enjoyable experience. Its combat system is robust, and its co-op features can turn most frowns upside down. However, the subpar story, forgettable characters, and lack of character customization options will definitely turn some people off. That's why we're giving the game a 6.8. For those looking to just turn off your brain and enjoy some fun action, you definitely can't go wrong picking this game. At the price of $50 though, we recommend waiting for it to go on sale for most people who are thinking of buying the game. So that was At Last Fallen. What are your thoughts? Were you excited for this game like we were? Tell us in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out all our other socials to keep up with our news, reviews, and all things gaming.